So one thing about me, if you know me and you've been around for quite some time, you may know this story or you may know these stories. But if you're just here, welcome. Let me take you into how I have been the villain so many times in so many other people's lives and in my own. So when I believe was like about 17, 18 years old, I stepped into full-blown villain era. And I'm not talking about like villain era that people are like claiming right now where it's like, they're just not caring and they're on top of their stuff. I'm talking villain era. I was the problem in my own life and I was a problem in other people's lives. And one of my biggest issues, one of the biggest problems in my life was drinking. I was drinking basically all the time. And because I had so much pent up emotion, so much pent up energy, so much pent up vibrations living inside of me that I just wasn't allowing out, it really came out when I got super drunk, like blackout drunk. And I got blackout drunk way too many times. You know how like you can get blackout drunk and then learn your lesson and then stop yourself from getting blackout drunk? I was so disconnected from how it was hurting me because I was trying to chase the idea of fun and the idea of being liked and being loved and being free, that blackout drunk was something that I was willing to do every single time. And when I got blackout drunk, I wasn't just like, obnoxious. I was a problem. I would ruin the night. I would fight everybody. I would run away from my people. I was a physical fighter. I was yelling and screaming. I was embarrassing. The type of stuff that for a long time I sat in shame about and just sat in embarrassment about. I've lost friendships over it. I've lost connections even to my sister over it. I have put people in really, really tough positions. I have woken up on the streets way too many times. I have woken up in the hospital way too many times. I have woken up in other men's bed way too many times. More times than I would like to say. I've woken up looking around, questioning, why am I here and what is going on? And through all of that, I realized a few things. Although that was the part of my life that was so toxic and so difficult, and I could go back to so many reasons why drinking was important to me and why I chased the high of a good time and why I chased the high of being validated and loved by my peers and people around me, the choice, making the simple choice to be real about my feelings, making the simple choice to not take that one more shot, making the choice to say, you know what, I'm not going to go out tonight, because there would be nights where my intuition was so loud. My intuition would say, you should not go out tonight. You should not do that thing tonight. And I would still do it because I want to be accepted, or because I'm just so bored at home, or because I'm trying to run away from a life that nobody really understood or knew that I was living, because I wasn't being authentic about it, because I thought I'd be judged, because I was judged when I was authentic about it, right? So there's so many things that dove into that, but when I look back on them, after healing deeply and going into it and into it and into it, I realized it all came back to one thing: my choices. The difficulties of my life came back to my choices. So there was a friend that I had. We were friends. This was like my best friend. We were friends since like middle school. And I forget what was the reason, but she was throwing a party. And I remember that day that she was throwing the party, I really, for some reason, just didn't want to go. Now, this is my best friend. I was one of those friends that showed up for my people, right? Like, if my best friend's throwing a party, I'm there early, right? I am showing up with all the people you need me to show up with. I am there to help. I'm doing whatever it is I need to do. So it was weird for me to not want to go to my friend's party. But I'm telling you right now, I woke up that day and I dreaded going, y'all. I dreaded it. I was just like, ugh, I don't want to go to this party. And it felt so deep, right? Like, it felt like this deep thing within me that was like, girl, you better not go to that party, boo bop. It's not, don't do it. And so for me, I got to a place where, I'm at home And I'm just like, I don't think I could go. And I'm with two of my other friends, and I'm like, you know, so-and-so is throwing a party, and, you know, it's today, but I don't really feel like going. I'm going to hit her up and let her know that I can't come. So I ended up texting, and I was just like, girl, look, I love you, but I don't think I can come. And she was like, no, Bree, please, you have to come. Like, please come, please come. And I remember being in a position of just being like, yo, I'm not going to do my girl like that. It wasn't for any other reason. I didn't have work. I wasn't sick. There was no reason why I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to go. So I was convinced to go. My two other friends that I was with was also just like, oh, we'll go with you. And I was like, all right, cool. And so I end up going. And when I get there, it's chill or whatever the case is. But I was the one that had, you know, an ID to get liquor at the time. And I wasn't of age. I think we were all like 18. But I did have the ID. And I remember my friends specifically asking me if I could go get liquor. And man, y'all, when I tell y'all, everything in my soul was just like, nah, I really can't. I don't even have the ID on me. I'm not like interested in doing so. But she happened to live maybe like 10 minutes away from me driving. So it was easy for me to just go back home and get the ID. However, everything in me, like I'm telling you, I did not want to do it. I said no so many times. But this is my best friend, guys, my best friend. I'ma show up for her. If she wants some liquor and I have the ability to get the liquor, I'ma get the liquor. Plus, it's drinking, why not, right? But everything in me told me not to. I end up going to get the liquor, or whatever the case is. And I was like, you know, I would have to go back home. I remember even saying like, I would have to go back home to go get it. And like, I walked there. I wasn't driving. I walked there, so I was just like, oh, I'd have to go back home. I don't want to do that. And, you know, another friend of ours was like, oh, I'm driving. Like, I could drive you. And so it's like everything felt like pressure to go do it. But I was like, look, let's go. And I made the choice. I made the choice at the end of the day, pressure or not. I decided I'm going to go do it. I'm going to get this liquor for my girl because it's her party. She wants liquor. I got her. And so I did. I went home, I grabbed the ID, and I went and I grabbed some liquor for my friend. And I ended up coming back. She's super happy. She has her people around. You know, I'm just like, all right, cool. That night, y'all, that deep feeling and that choice to do it, that ended up being the night that me and her ended our friendship. And I mean, like, not in a simple way. I mean, like, I apparently got so blacked out drunk that I ended up on their, their neighbor's property, who happened to, I believe, be their landlord as well. And I remember just being so confused why I was so drunk. I don't fully remember the night, so I'm not going to speak to the stuff that I don't remember. But I remember getting onto their property, and I just needed a moment. Like, I was just trying to get myself together, and I think I was trying to walk home. Like, I think I was trying to leave, to be honest. So, interestingly enough, as tough as that night was, I think it was saving me from what could have happened, because I was getting ready to walk home, right? But I end up getting on their property, and I end up super just fucking drunk. And somebody comes outside and is cussing me out, like, get the fuck off my lawn, right? And I'm just like, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna go. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm drunk. I remember that specific moment. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna try to figure it out. And I remember getting on the sidewalk, and I had a moment, a very, very quick moment, where I closed my eyes and I just said, God, I don't know what's happening, but help me. And yo, all hell broke loose after that, right? Like I said, I don't fully remember everything, but everyone from the party came out to the front. The neighbors, you know, was like, I'm calling the police, I end up, you know, fighting, because like I said, when I get blackout drunk, I'm also angry. So I end up fighting my friends, or fighting the people that are coming at me, like, Bree, move, And I remembered, you know, anytime I was super drunk, if people like was yelling at me or making me the problem or whatever the case is, or didn't take my side or whatever, I would get so angry, which had a lot to do with my trauma, right? So I was definitely the problem in this scenario. And, you know, me and my like girl were like going at it and fighting. And I remember just feeling like she didn't understand where I was coming from, because I wasn't being crazy, you know, on their neighbor's lawn, but I understood, right? I could understand it from the perspective of, you're drunk, you shouldn't be on their lawn, things like that. But I remember being like, I literally was just walking, like I was walking off, and, you know, I didn't feel like, you know, my people had my side. I felt very cornered. And so when I feel cornered, especially when drunk, it triggers something, and blackout drunk Bree is scary, and she wants to fight, and she's angry. And I remembered, you know, that whole thing going down, and I ended up getting arrested. And so, you know, no charges, no anything. Luckily, they dropped the charges. They didn't necessarily want to do any of that, which was really good. But yeah, y'all, I ended up arrested. It was a really tough night. My sister ended up bailing me out, and I ended up fighting her too, because I felt like my sister was against me too. And all of this energy of feeling like people are against me got me to really feel like I just didn't matter, and like people just didn't understand me. But that was a turning point for me. That was a turning point in my life. That was a turning point in my friendships. That was a turning point in everything. And I'm like actually like getting emotional about it, because I held that in my soul for years. Even when people would ask me like, what happened with you and so, because everyone knew that we were best friends. Everyone knew that, you know, we were like two peas in a pod, you know, we were super funny together. I always believed we were going to grow up together and have like, you know, shows together and stuff like that, because us together is just a crazy duo. And so many people would come to me and they would say, you know, Bree, what happened? Like, why aren't you and so talking? And all I would ever say to them is, I fucked up, right? I fucked up. My choices put me in a position that really, really was tough for me to deal with. But for such a long time, I was sitting in shame of getting that drunk and being that blacked out drunk. And that was not the first time. And it also was not the last time that I've been that blacked out drunk and got into fights and things of that sort. There was something much deeper going on in my life and in my heart. And I was struggling. I was really, really struggling. And I've never had anyone actually, you know, look at me and say, Bree, like, I think you have a problem, or Bree, are you okay? Everyone always just, you know, anytime I act out, they just get mad at me and they just stop talking to me, which rightfully so, right? When somebody is over here, you know, making a mess of your night, you don't want to fuck with them. I was toxic, right? So you get rid of toxicity. I think I only ever had one friend, right? There was only one person that I was hanging out with that's ever looked at me and said, Bree, you know, I want to talk to you. And I was like, what's up? And she looked at me and she said, I think you have a drinking problem. And without judgment, ooh, this is making me so emotional. Without judgment, I could hear her. I didn't feel like she was talking at me. I didn't feel like she couldn't see me. She could really see me. And she's like, I think you have a drinking problem. And I know that because my, you know, uncle and my aunt, they have drinking problems. And so she was so kind, because we had, you know, a certain night that wasn't the easiest. And then after that, you know, she still invited me over and she was still open. She was still super kind. And this was somebody that I guess has just dealt with, you know, drinking issues or whatever the case is. And she just let me know, you have a drinking problem, which I've never heard it that way before. I've heard you need to stop drinking and da 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 da. But when you're sitting in trauma and you're hurt, you're hurt. You know what I mean? Like when you are going through it, the last thing you want to hear is how you have a problem, right? That's the last thing you want to do. You can't even admit that you have a problem, because you're just like, no, this is not the problem. This is the escape. The problem is over there, right? So I was living in a home filled with problems that drinking to me was my escape. That's where I could be myself. I could speak out loud. I could enjoy some of it until I got blacked out, right? So to have someone actually come to me and say, like, I think you have a drinking problem, that changed my life. That got me to really like open up to the idea that I need to slow down. I need to stop. I need to back off. I need to relax on drinking and not be so, you know, oblivious to my own issues. And it was that moment, it was that choice that I made that really got me to see that's the shift of my life as well, right? I didn't stop drinking, right? I didn't go cold turkey, but I did spend a few, I believe, weeks after she told me that, not touching a drink. And then when I started drinking again, I was very, very particular about the drinks that I was taking. And I was very much, like slow about it or whatever the case is. And I didn't want to drink too much. I was cautious. I was very, very cautious. And I stopped having those crazy blacked out nights. I think after that conversation, I probably had a total of like 5 blacked out nights, but even those blacked out nights, people would say like, you weren't horrible, you just like didn't want to listen, right? So it got better because that knowledge alone and that choice to change, and I literally said, I'm changing my life. Just the intention and choice to change alone allowed me to be on the trajectory of shifts and changes. But going back to that night with my best friend, everything in my soul told me and helped me to know, going there and making the choice to actually drink, to actually get the bottles, no matter how much you're being pressured, was the difference between me losing that friend, the difference between me having a decent day, the difference between me going through what I went through, being arrested, et cetera, and probably not. Granted, it needed to go down that way because like I said, that night I prayed to God right before everything went down. I didn't know what was going on, but I was getting ready to walk home because I felt so off. And I will never, ever, ever forget literally sitting there and just saying, God, please help me. And instead of walking home or anything like that, I end up getting arrested where I'm now safe until someone can come pick me up. And as crazy as that may seem, and as much as that has been held over me as trauma and as one of the worst nights of my life, it actually did save me, because I've had nights where I've almost been hit by a car, where lots of things went down, but I luckily had people around me to help me through. So God is so good. But it all comes down to my choices. Me choosing to continue that route, me choosing to tell myself that, because my girl or because my people really want something, I got to do it. What's the difference between my life being hard and my life being easy? And I have so many stories in so many ways that is true. But my other friend's choice of telling me that I have a drinking problem, and then my choice to not take it from a, egotistical space and actually be open to that, was also such a huge difference in my life and allowed me to move down into a newer trajectory of not needing to struggle. And drinking became something that I slowly, very, very slowly, and I mean very, very extremely slowly, okay, backed off on. And although it was something that was kind of like a way for me to cope with my difficulties and my trauma, I literally put myself in the position of finally choosing me. And it was the smallest choices. I started being able to say no to that one more shot. I started to be able to say no to having, tequila, or having Hennessy, or having some of the harder liquors and just drinking wine, right? The choices, I started realizing I have a choice in this matter, instead of feeling like it's something that I have to do or I'm pressured to do or something that must be done. And so I give you all that story because a lot of times life will really feel like this is just the way it is, especially a life that's been rooted in trauma, a life that's been rooted in hardship, a life that's been rooted in pain. But when you tell yourself for a second, you actually have a choice in this. You have a choice in this matter, even if it's the smallest choice, even if the only choice you have is to say no, even if everyone and their mamas get mad at you for saying no, at least you have the choice to do it. And it could literally be the difference between you having the worst day or the best day. And for me, I definitely was in a position where having the worst time of my life was consistent in my life, because I was constantly being shown how I actually have a choice in the matter. That night didn't even need to happen. It did not even need to happen. The night that I went to my friend's party and got the liquor, I had 2 choices. 1, not to go. 2, not to get the liquor. And then 3, not to drink, right? But because I was so prone to drinking, because it was a habit of mine, because it was my escape, and nobody really knew what was going on in my home, because I was experiencing a lot of darkness at home, a lot of darkness, and nobody really cared to ask either, right? I was usually the one that was helping everybody. What I do today, being a coach, that really does fit my characteristics, because even with my friends, I usually was there to help them through anything and everything that they needed, as long as they came to me and as long as I could, right? And so, you know, being someone to give advice and all that stuff, for some reason, I was always the one that people came to, and I was always the one that could provide. But being the one that needed help was very difficult. It was really hard, but I was going through a lot of stuff, and drinking became this escape. And when I first started to drink, it was just fun, right? I wasn't actually going through blackout nights or anything like that. I just was having fun with my people, and people would always say like, oh my God, Brianna's so funny when she drinks. She's so great when she drinks. And it was validation for me. It was just something where it's like, not only is this an escape, I'm also having a blast and people like me. Let's do it, right? So it became something that I really would escape to every single weekend. I'm a teenager, I'm drinking. And I think 18 years old was my turning point. That was the part where I had to change my entire life. And I did. And I remembered on my 18th birthday specifically, I ended up crying my eyes out when my people started singing happy birthday to me. I was literally bawling my eyes out. I was just like, oh my gosh. And I had no idea that that was going to be the turning point of my life. And it really was. It was a turning point in so many different ways. I was acting out, okay? And it became one of those things where it was probably one of the darkest times of my life, because I was drinking the most. I was having sex the most with people that I should not have been having sex with. I was doing a lot of stuff, which I will be sharing a lot of stories with you guys, because I feel like there's so much that I experienced because God really wanted me to have the human experience. There's a reason why I don't judge people, because, and I always say too, like, I am a life coach. I'm a relationship expert. I am a psychic, because God loves me and has provided me with that ability. And I've been here many lifetimes to be able to do that. But I'm a life coach because I live life. Like, I've lived life. I do not have a picture perfect, cutesy resume and cutesy life. I have a very, very hard, rugged, deep, real life. And I'm going to be sharing more of it with y'all boo bops, because I think so many of us can relate to one another in so many different ways. And this specific story was so tied to our choices, to my choices. And I think a lot of times, and I'm in the position in my life right now where I'm so conscious of the choices that I'm making. I'm so conscious of the choices that I have, right? I'll give you a small example. Yesterday, I had a call, but I was out. And I had the call, I think, within an hour, but I still needed to eat dinner. I still needed to do a lot of stuff. And everything was perfect yesterday. Everything was going super well, to the point where I was like, okay, I have more than enough time to get back. You know, it's a 5-minute ride from where I am. I'm gonna call my Lyft and I'm gonna get in. Lyft was working perfect. Money's in the account. Everything is working out. I tried to call Lyft, get the app to work 3 times, and it would not work. Right when I'm trying to leave. And I'm crunched for time at this point. However, knowing that Lyft is gonna come in, I'm thinking it's fine. If I have to walk, I now have to walk about 30 to 35 minutes, but the drive itself would have only been 5 minutes. Lyft is not working. I had put myself in the position of thinking for a second, I was like, do I have to walk? And I understood if I had to walk, I would only have 30 minutes to actually get into the call, prepare for the call, et cetera, et cetera. And I had a choice in that moment. And I seen myself actively have a choice. And that choice was, I can panic, or I can trust that the most perfect thing is happening right now and allow my intuition, my higher self, and my subconscious to guide me, because I know my divine team is behind this, because there's no issue with the card. Lyft has been working fine all day. So if it's on their end, it's on their end. It didn't show that the app had an issue. It just kept saying that the processing of the card couldn't happen. And something was taking place where I put myself in a position of believing, this has to be perfect. This couldn't be anything but it being a perfect situation. And literally, I prayed real quick. I looked down at my phone and I just pressed Uber instead. And when I pressed Uber, when I tell you everything went so fast, this Uber driver was already in the parking lot of where I was able to get to me in 1 minute, and I was able to get home faster than Lyft would have allowed me to. Everything is perfect, but the choice to believe that, the choice to sit with myself, listen to my intuition, and trust that everything is working out as it should, even if it doesn't seem like it is, was the difference between me having an easy transition into my call versus a very chaotic and hectic one. And that was the truth when I drank. That was the truth when I went to that party. That was the truth every single time that I've experienced anything negative. You always, always, always have a choice. You will always have a choice, boo bop. Even when it's out of your hands, out of your control, you always have a choice to decide how are you going to handle what is out of your control. It was 100% in my control to say no. But once I said yes, I chose. And it was 100% in my control to decide I'm just not going to drink. But once I drank, what happened was I aligned with something that didn't align with me, and life showed up in a misalignment with my truth. And so therefore it looked quote unquote bad. That had everything to do with my choices. And the moment that I have chosen better, my life has actively gotten better. You have the choice. Your mindset and how you view your problem situations or life as a whole is the difference between you living beautifully and you living from a place of difficulty. You get to choose right now. You get to choose in this moment. So for the next day, 24 hours, I want you to just attempt, at the very least, to make choices from your heart. When you decide that it's time for you to shower, get up and do it. When your intuition tells you that it's time to move left, do it. Choose you, choose your intuition, and watch how your life just seamlessly starts to move in a beautiful direction. Your choices literally get to shape how your life is going to turn out. It is not a joke and it is not a drill. I really hope that this story and this message resonates with you or provides you some sort of wisdom that you can take back with you and you can utilize for your life, because you deserve that. And until next time, as always, you know I'm sending you so much love. Bye.